Messiah lifestyle is interesting. It's literally all I could think to say because it's fascinating. It's fascinating because it touches on, and you can see some of the concerns for that age from the people then. They were looking just as much as everybody else today is. They were looking for God to do something. They were looking for God to make right wrong. They were looking for God to undo what God had done. And so you have now Hellenistic Judaism. And then you have the branch of Hellenistic Judaism from what Paul is giving. And from what Paul is giving, he's giving to Hellenistic Jews, he's giving to converts to Judaism in an age-related figure that can do something for them so long as they exercise faith, and that's all it is. Exercise faith in the act that the Logos did within the host, its host. Now the Logos did within its host an act fulfilling free righteousness to the human being, free pardon of sin for the human being, and not simply just free, continual or perpetual, and then also free, continual, perpetual reconciliation to God the Logos for the purpose of receiving the Spirit of the Logos, that by receiving the Spirit of the Logos, one may continue to maintain that lifestyle, to remain and to have status before God the Father. And so this lifestyle must be lived for the purpose, not just any random purpose, like this isn't just to do. You're doing this to continue to receive the essence of the Logos, which is the Holy Ghost, for the maintenance of self. For the maintenance of self. And you want to maintain yourself because you want to be sure that you can secure to yourself a spot on that day of resurrection. Because God cannot be around an unhealthy self. And God cannot be around a self that does not want to take care of its condition. And so the Logos doing everything for the human being's condition and placing into the opportunity, placing into chance, placing into practice, divine gifts and precious promises for the human being to take and to exercise for the purpose of that time or appointed time of resurrection and for status, to have your name written in that book of life so that God can be with you always and you can be with God always and continue that Messiah lifestyle in the presence of God that you did while on earth. But more than that, and a more present issue, is that there is wrath coming. Paul's message is apocalyptic in nature because he's facing and he's feeling hostility towards what he's giving. He's giving a high priest in the temple above, that is his resurrected Lord. The temple below, it's for those that are maintaining that, for those that are giving a little bit of hardship toward what is being taught from above. You will suffer wrath. You need to be ready for this day of wrath. Don't get caught sleeping. It will hit you. And when it does, you will know that things are what they are and what is above is above. So this full Messiah lifestyle that Paul is giving, it's a lifestyle for a spiritual community whose foundational practice is self-denial. Self-denial, temperance, keeping under the body, so that what is within can come out. And this is that hope of glory. Christ in you, the hope of glory. It's becoming the same as that man, but while on earth. He is the model. Him being the model, he's now, through the Logos, given to humanity everything to mirror the experience that he experienced for the reason for why he was chosen. And he wasn't chosen because of any law. He wasn't chosen because he sacrificed this, because he sacrificed that. He wasn't chosen because he did anything remotely close to that. He was chosen because he maintained his mind. He maintained his mind just as Moses did, kept under it. And it is because of that, it's because of that desire, that chase for virtue according to the things of God, that the Logos chose him and mirroring that, the Logos will also choose us. Again, this is according to Paul's logic. So there is no law that one can do or that one can maintain in order to have, sanctioned the I of the divine God. Again, I'm just speaking as Paul would in his philosophy. There is no law that one can do, and there's no law that one should commit themselves to do to gain the kind of benefit that one can gain from living this lifestyle. And he tells us this in the book of Galatians 5. Galatians 5:22 through 24. Galatians 5:22 through 24. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long-suffering, gentleness, goodness, faith, meekness, temperance. Against such there is no law. And they that are Christ have crucified the flesh with the affections and lusts. And so Paul is really doing an assumption here based off of his model, because he's never seen this person called Christ. He's never seen this person called Christ. The only thing that Paul has is the composite that he has invented or created to himself. And from that composite, he's creating a philosophy. And according to his composite, according to the image that he is understanding of this figure, he is understanding this figure to mirror the spirit, attitude, character of the Logos. Spirit, attitude, character of the Logos cannot be anything but love. Because being the creator of everything, the Logos being the creator of everything, has placed love into every element, visible and invisible, for it to continue in its own form of love to what we now see as a benefit for humanity. That's a love beyond love. Again, not only so, is that for all of these many years, instead of years and generations, instead of killing humanity for the misconduct of humanity, well, the Logos was actually patient with humanity and was waiting to see if humanity could correct itself or to find something better to do to please his Father. Remember, God the Father has a Son. The Son is called the Logos. And so there is a waiting on this duo of humanity. Another show of love, not a show of vengeance. We weren't killed. Sure, floods happened and things happened and all of this took place, but we were never wiped out. There was still fondness. There was still a love and a service no matter what tragically took place. And so when Paul is looking at his Christ, when he's seeing that within that man lived the Son of God the Father, which is the Logos, he's seeing a form of love. A form of love showing forth and demonstrated not just to God, but also to humanity. And so to the example and to the model for the spiritual community, in order to be that kind of individual, in order to fully represent that model, you have to, have less ego. You cannot be self-righteous. You cannot be self-centered. You cannot be as prideful as you naturally are as human beings. You have to actually consent to doing the contrary. And this individual did. And because this individual did, he did so with the power of the Logos within him, because the power of the Logos is contrary to the negligence of the human being. Again, this is Paul's rationale. This is an actual rationale. This is Paul's rationale, and the rationale from looking at the disposition of the Logos from the position that he did in one sense. So if we're going to mirror the individual, the host that the Logos filled, well, then we also need to consider putting down the mind within our flesh and educating and re-educating our affections and our lusts. We need to get them into check. Now, we can't do that ourselves. And this is what the Stoics do. This is what the Cynics do. This is what every philosophical club does. And this is what the Jews have done through laws. And both have failed. They have failed because they have not had the divine source guiding their communities. We do. We in this spiritual community of having a high priest above have now precious gifts given to us for us to maintain the base, the animalistic nature, the natural carnal spirit or character of our human being, to have that suppressed so that now we can love, so that now we can be temperate, so that now we can demonstrate goodness, so that now we can demonstrate faith, so that now we can show and demonstrate meekness, which is, again, quality of Moses, to maintain this lifestyle for the purpose of regaining our lost self, true, but also status to the Creator. Our world today is a world of communication. Whether it's an important email or a social media post, we all want to make sure our writing is clear, effective, and professional. But if we're going to be honest, we can say that we don't always give time or have time even to proofread everything that we write. And this is where Grammarly comes in. With Grammarly, you can easily eliminate grammar errors, spelling errors, and punctuation errors to make your writing clear and beyond concise. So tap into this source, head on over to my website. This is a sponsor of mine. Click the affiliate link and explore the brilliance of this source. And so as Paul is reviewing the character of the anticipated Messiah, he's consistently going back to Isaiah 53. And Isaiah 53:11, on point. Isaiah 53:11. Isaiah 53:11, he shall see of the travail of his soul and be satisfied. And so there is a thing going on here where the Creator is pleased when one's soul is dragged out. The Creator is pleased when one's soul, for the Creator's cause, is dragged out. If you can maintain yourself and in a way where you are virtuously suffering for the Creator, that will be a sign of praise, commendation, due to the travail of your soul, will be seen. And being seen, you will be known as a son of God, the Logos. There are two gods here in Paul's frame of reference. There are only two gods. His Christ is really not a God, or his Jesus is really not a God. Because even when he's speaking to Timothy in this school of thought, in this school of Paul's thought, there is only one mediator between God and man, the man, Jesus Christ. So this individual did not see his Jesus as a God or anything like that. Even though he had God within him, it was always God was manifest in the flesh. Let's keep it that way. Because there are only two gods in Paul's original school of thought, which is Hellenistic Judaism. God the Father and God the Logos. The third is simply a man in whom the Logos filled to be the mediator between it, the Logos, and the Father. Between it, the Logos, and the experience of the human being. So that high priest is mediator for an experience in a lifestyle. And so this lifestyle is depending on the individual suffering virtuously. Because if you can, you will receive the same treatment that your high priest example received. So you have to suffer your soul. You have to maintain the cause of God. And what is the cause of God? This is the cause of the Logos. Now, the Logos maintained the cause of the Father perfectly. Humanity now has once again a fair trial due to the labor of the Logos within its human being. Now, it is up to the human being, when joined to this association led by that high priest, that man that the Logos filled, that was taken up. It is now the human being's responsibility to suffer for the cause of the Logos. And the cause of the Logos is love and self-denial. Love and self-denial is what the cause of the Logos is. Looking at the book of Romans, Romans 8:13 and 14. Romans 8:13 and 14. Romans 8:13 and 14. For if you live after the flesh, you shall die. But if you through the Spirit do mortify the deeds of the body, you shall live. For as many as are led by the Spirit of God, they are the sons of God. Now there's two different contexts here to look at this. And the deeds of the flesh The deeds of the flesh are a context that I'm not attacking at this point in time. I'm attacking it from a surface or a flesh-based point of view when you read these things without having an understanding of the philosophy that is within the scriptures. And from the Hellenistic Judaistic, along with Paul's branching out from that point of view. And what Paul is doing here, in a surface sense, deeds of the body, you have to kill them. You cannot maintain your deeds that go contrary to the character of the Logos, that go contrary to the character of the host of the Logos, which is Paul's Jesus. You cannot let the mind within your flesh do this. You have to mortify your body. You have to mortify the mind within it in order for then you to fully assume the career that you are supposed to have in this spiritual community. So jumping into the book of Colossians, the book of Colossians 3 and verse 5. Colossians 3 and verse 5. Colossians 3 and verse 5, it reads, "Mortify therefore your members which are upon the earth, fornication, uncleanness, inordinate affection, evil, concupiscence, and covetousness, which is idolatry." So you can't really get away in this train of thought that Paul is giving from handling yourself. There's no such thing as the man died, rose, and did it all for me, and I am covered. There's no such thing as everything is finished. Nothing's finished. According to Paul, the only one that has things finished in is the one that died, rose, and was taken. If you are still on earth and with breath in your lungs, you are not right. You are still just as impure as you were before, whether you are in this community or not. You are still as despised to God the Father. You are still hated for your human condition by God the Father. You are still a waste. But what makes you not a waste, what makes you seem right, what makes you seem as if you are, wanting to be right and so should be receiving right, is your care for maintaining a specific lifestyle. And that specific lifestyle has a lot to do with the individual cutting themselves off from themselves, which is, again, something popular among Greek communities, and then also among Jewish communities. And so Paul is doing something kind of innovative in that he's giving to his community, again, a model example. A model example, not to say, look, this is our model and he's done it all for me. Let's just go to that camp. Because if we go to that camp, everything will be done to us and we can live however we want to live. It's not what Paul is saying. And you can see to the Romans, you can see to the Corinthians, you can see to the Galatians, you can see to Titus, you can see how in his gospel he has to explain that just because this one individual, having the Logos within him, has given to humanity liberty from sin, that does not mean sin is gone from you or from the realm that we are in. Young women still need to be brought up and trained. Women still need to be brought up and trained. Young men need to still be brought up and trained. Old men need to still be brought up and trained and to train and bring up. Nothing has changed. But the only thing that has changed is that we now have a model example to live by. Because if he died and rose, that means that we have to die to ourselves and that we have to be revived within ourselves. This is a self-based philosophical concept with an example who has done it and who is now the mediator over this experience to give us divine, precious gifts and promises to make sure that we can do this. Because we can't do this without these precious gifts and promises. We're seeing these other cults do it, and they're still fraudulent. We're seeing the Jews do it, and they're still fraudulent. But we have the opportunity not to be fraudulent because we have an example who is interceding for our experience, so that as we die to self consistently every single day that we have breath, we can receive the spirit of that intercession, that spirit which is that spirit from the Logos, from that intercession to maintain the disposition of our human being, so that the quality of our act, so that the quality of our government, personal government, it can match the character of that ministry, the character of that administration. And so the keeping of self under, for the purpose of the character of that administration manifesting through love. As Paul is always going to say, the fulfilling of the law is love. Logos fulfilled it. We don't have to worry about it anymore because this fulfillment is kind of actually automatically given so long as we maintain that lifestyle. It is through maintaining that lifestyle that we will understand how to really connect with that administration above. And so it's really, really interesting when you think about what Paul is giving off here, because he's not giving off a religion of sort. He's not, this isn't the idolatry of a God-man. This isn't, how Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John are portraying. Paul is trying to look at this Greek Jewish mythology from a real point of view. He is actually believing that his composite lived, died, revived, ascended, and is in position for a particular philosophical experience to where the neglect, not even the neglect, for where the care or the forgetting of the self, magnifying the mind within, can then do something more special for the human being in regards to, first of all, there's wrath coming. You will be safe if you do this lifestyle. Second of all, you're going to be sealed, as he says in the first chapter of the book of Ephesians, sealed to the Holy Spirit, to the Spirit that is given to you through this lifestyle unto or to the day of redemption. And so it is in your best interest, community, listeners, it is in your best interest, my audience, who is taking confidence in my Lord, the composite that I have never seen, but that has spoken to me yet, to take this lifestyle and to maintain it, so that the maintenance of you through this lifestyle, you can then prepare yourself and fashion yourself for the life after, for the appearing of this Lord after, and for the saving of yourself from wrath after. So right now, you need to be joined to this community, because if you're not going to be able to have the gifts to advance, to progress in, to move forward in a lifestyle or a state of mind where sin, and keeping in this kind of language, where sin is secular, where sin is flesh-based, where sin is human condition, human error, you're not going to be able to get rid of that if you're not a part of this administration, this heavenly administration. So you need to. So Paul is giving, and it's just so fascinating, because you have to go through this experience to actually know what the doctrine is. You have to go through this experience of, no matter what you go through, just love. No matter what's going on, be temperate. No matter what is happening, be meek. You have to go through this based off of an assumed lifestyle of his Christ. Again, there is no document of his Christ ever There is nothing of his Christ, but it's just an assumption of a character that you, the audience, have to go through. And you, the audience, meaning you, Paul's audience in reference to the generation that the Bible is speaking to. You have to go through this experience so that you can understand personally what this means, what this is, how to maintain it, so that you can gain your own principles to grow fond of and to maintain. So there's really no instruction here. There's no instruction. There is an assumed character to mimic, and there is an assumed composite that has no face, but has qualities. So if you can maintain those qualities, you can actually be the face to be envisioned. You can be the face, and that's the goal, to be the face. Be the face of that composite Jesus. And maintaining this lifestyle, you can do it. There's no offering you need. There's no law you can keep. The only law you can keep is love. And so you have to assume, according to Paul's doctrine, what that love is. You have to go back and look at that kind of love from the context that he's pulling this out of. And you have to live your life according to that love's context. Live your life according to the love that the Logos gave and is giving to mankind and has given. Live your life in the sort of love that the high priest of the Logos' administration is living and giving. You have to live in a specific accordance to a lifestyle of love so that you can continue to receive divine principles to keep yourself down, to maintain your mind ever rising. In your mind ever rising, you're self-conquered. You can find the kind of re-education that is needed to then enter into the gates of where you need to enter onto the day of redemption.